Hello, everyone.
We're rolling and rolling.
Oh, that was good.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, do we have a treat this time?
Such a treat.
Such a treat.
An Italian treat.
In a way, yes.
2 out of the 3 movies that we've done so far have been set in...
They've been Roman-based, haven't
Yeah.
they? Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, well, we're doing Gladiator. You know that by the title already. Gladiator II, specifically.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't get a chance to see Gladiator 1 before this. I've seen it a long, long time ago.
And fun fact, I have never seen Gladiator. Mm-mm. So... And I was told earlier today, before we went to see it, that our friend Ryan, shout out Ryan, his brother... Yeah, we know Ryan's listening. His brother saw it and said that if you hadn't seen Gladiator 1, you would not understand anything. And to that, I say incorrect.
Yeah, no, I barely remember Gladiator 1, and I feel like I got the gist of the entire thing.
Yeah, I have, as we said, never seen Gladiator 1, and within like the first 10 minutes, maybe even 5 minutes, had completely called the plot twist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, you did. What's your impressions having not seen a Gladiator movie before?
Well, no feet in this one. I knew that crying feet scene. Yeah. So, spoiler, no feet in this one. I think, again, we should start with a little synopsis, and then we get into like what we think.
Sure, you synopsize this.
All right, official word.
Mm-hmm.
So we open with some actually really beautiful opening credits, and it sort of summarizes what goes on in Gladiator 1.
Pretty much.
In like painting, which I really liked.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it opens on Paul Mescal, and he is a farmer warrior in an ancient city, and he's being called to war with his wife. They're going to go against the Romans who are approaching. And Pedro Pascal is leading the Roman army. And there's a battle, and his wife dies, and he falls in the ocean and has a vision of her crossing over on the river Styx, and he tries to get to her, and he can't, and she says, "I'll wait for you," which I actually really liked that scene. I thought that was really cool. And then he gets taken as a captive. I don't think he's ever made a slave.
He's a slave. He's branded a slave.
Okay. He's a slave. He has a lot of rage, so he becomes a gladiator for Denzel Washington, his character.
Mm-hmm.
And then he fights his way to the top. But spoiler, he is not just some nameless person from ancient Morocco. He's actually a grandson of Marcus Aurelius, like the grandson of Marcus Aurelius.
Oh.
And his mother sent him away for his safety when he was little, and Romans came looking for him, so he wandered into the desert. And he, it's the Lion King.
Continent.
It's the Lion King.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
And then he comes back as this slave gladiator, and he really wants to kill his mother's new husband, Pedro Pascal, because Pedro Pascal killed his wife in battle. And there are 2 emperors. They're twins, which honestly I didn't realize until halfway through, and I was like, this is weird that they have 2 twin...
They mentioned it at the beginning.
Oh, I didn't hear it.
Because they put it in writing at the beginning.
Oh.
Yes.
I guess I can't read.
It says the English major. So that's bad.
Anyway,
my half dyslexic ass was able to figure out what's going on.
Okay. Well, you're very smart.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, Denzel Washington's character tries to overthrow the emperors, and he wants Rome in an upheaval, so he's very conniving in getting the emperors to kill Pedro Pascal and kill the daughter of Marcus Aurelius, and then him and Paul Mescal have a fight at the end, and Paul wins, and then he has a big speech about the dream of Rome as a republic, and all of the soldiers agree.
And it's a republic again.
And that's what you missed on Glee.
That's literally it. What'd you think?
Honestly, I liked it more than I thought I would.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I guess I thought I went in being like, I think I really won't like this because I'm not necessarily into a lot of gore. I can do gore if it's campy, but
This is actually, I mean, I wouldn't say realistic is the right term for
No.
it, but it was definitely like,
Yeah, and like I didn't love all of that, but I could stomach it. Like it
Yeah.
wasn't so much that I was like, I can't do this.
yeah.
Which I kind of went in thinking that's what was going to happen. But I enjoyed it. I don't know. It was funny at times when I don't think it meant to be funny, but it was funny to me.
Oh, no. It's clearly, I have a hard time with this movie.
Okay, well then you take it away. You got a
Because-
gripe list?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, go on.
Because, okay, I don't remember the first Gladiator that much, but I remember it being cool. And there are definitely cool scenes in this movie, but I feel like it could have been cooler if they didn't have some BS modern day message to put in there, in a sense. At least that's what it felt. Like, it's a fantasy movie, in my opinion. Like, I know it's a fictional story that takes place in a fictionalized-ish version of Rome, but like it's clearly based on a historical place, and they're not even like doing fun alternate history. It's all made up and like super made up. Like I don't know. I just like I didn't enjoy it from that perspective. And like the story was predictable.
Yeah.
The story was predictable. It wasn't that interesting.
I love, and by love I mean kind of jokingly love, like everyone in these stories, and like the same thing with kind of the whole Rey is a Palpatine. Everyone who's a protagonist has to be super special, and then being the protagonist isn't enough to make them special. They need something else. They need like a birthright to being the protagonist,
Yeah.
which I find less compelling. Like I think it would be more interesting if I forget what his non-Roman name is, but Lucius, who's the main character,
Yeah.
if he wasn't Roman at all, or like he was just some kind of lower noble, but then I guess it wouldn't necessarily make sense that he would escape in that way. But it would be more interesting if it really was a rags story and not a...
You know what's funny about that? I thought that Denzel Washington's character arc was
fully.
the most interesting.
We got to the end when Denzel Washington's character was a slave of Marcus Aurelius, so that's Paul Mescal's grandfather in the movie, and he was set free somehow, or bought his freedom, and he quotes Cicero saying like, you need to be completely different than the man who wronged you.
Well, he's quoting Aurelius there.
Oh, is that?
That's Meditations.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What do I know?
Yeah.
So he says that several times, and he tells the mom and the daughter, the only woman, the token woman in the movie.
Yeah.
He tells her that he has done that, and he's completely the opposite of Marcus Aurelius. And so Marcus Aurelius had this dream of a Roman Republic. He doesn't have a dream. He has reality, and he will work within this reality, and he will topple Rome, essentially, is what he wants to do. And you don't... Like, you kind of get the sense of that earlier on, but he doesn't really lay out all of the reason why until the end, and that made him so compelling.
Well, I think that's why I like Denzel Washington's character the most, because in a lot of ways he was the most Roman out of the characters there. Like, he was the most sort of authentic Roman there. Like, he's the type of person who... Like, he's like, I'm working in reality. And I'm like, right. Because the problem is Lucius is working in a fantasy. Like, the idea of a second republic in Rome, what the fuck are we talking about?
Well, the other thing, too, is he's like, oh, I want a republic. But when he calls the army, he's like, I'm Prince of Rome.
Right.
It's like...
Well, and it's like, oh, they talked about restoring powers back to the Senate and all this stuff. And I'm like... You could make the argument that the reason that Rome is an empire is because of the Senate. The Senate handled the Caesar situation very, very poorly. And they were just as I mean, I guess you could call it racist. Like, they were just as racist. They were just as bad as everyone else. It's not like these senators are some, like, awesome elected people. Like, only the elected people can vote.
Well,
Rome is an incredibly disgusting society by modern standards.
How many senators were there shown in the movie? Like, it was really small, right? Like, it was almost like a king's council. It wasn't like a senate.
This is also my problem. Having been to Rome.
Oh my God, did you study abroad?
Yeah, I know. The streets, I don't understand. Like, they showed a shot of Rome top down, and I was like, oh, that looks like Rome. But then they like were in there and I'm like, where is this palace located? Because it's in the middle of the forum.
Yeah, I was a little like fuzzy on their geography.
Right.
Too.
And I'm like, what's happening? Wouldn't they be in Nero's palace, which is on the other side of the Colosseum? And like the streets are too wide for it to be ancient Rome. And then the real Senate building is really small. It's not open air where like anyone can just listen to the Senate. Like it's a 4-wall structure. Like no one's coming in.
I will say I did enjoy visually. I liked what I saw.
Yeah.
Because sometimes historic movies, you know, they're in like that sepia tone and they're just kind of like dull. But this one, I enjoyed it. It wasn't. I think it set the tone nicely with that opening credit because it was like you're looking at paint strokes.
Yeah.
And then you're kind of looking at this lush landscape and it does sort of look like a fresco. And it's like, storytelling, but kind of harkening back to like a storytelling medium that would have been around in
I think
ancient
that
Rome.
because of the gray, well, or like the just how boring the Colosseum is with the way
Yeah.
that they described it, like it makes the costumes of the main characters really stand out
Yes.
because it's like,
Oh.
oh, look at how visually interesting these
And-
people are.
And the way that I was sitting there and just being like, yeah, I do like a man in a skirt above the knee. Methinks.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a good look.
Yeah.
No.
They look badass.
They looked sick. That
Yeah.
was, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I especially liked the last one that Paul wore with the little fringe.
Oh, well, that's what Russell Crowe wore in the first one.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know that I'd like it on Russell Crowe in the same way.
Well, you know what?
It was
That's fair.
doing something for me on Paul. I also, though, so it took me a little bit to like fall into the story because I just kept watching and being like, it's so funny to me that they want me to believe that this man who is known to run away after like spending the night with a girl is so committed to his wife.
Oh,
Like to a woman that he
Yeah.
could commit to one woman when he's like anyway, that just made me laugh.
yeah.
And it took a couple minutes for me to like let that go.
It's so weird because the themes of the movie don't even make sense to me.
It's very contradictory.
Oh, super contradictory. It doesn't really make any sense.
I guess now I'd be interested in watching Gladiator 1, knowing where we end up
Yeah.
message wise. And like, does Gladiator 1 make more sense?
From what I remember, Gladiator 1 does make a little bit more sense. And
When did Gladiator 1 come out?
2000.
Oh, really?
Yeah, turn of the century. Mm-hmm.
Pre 9/11.
Yeah, pre 9/11. Yep. Well, yeah. I think like one of the main themes is like, oh, it's about family and protecting your family and everything, but it's not at the same time. And like, it's also about a fight against tyranny, but sort of not at the same time. And it's just confusing. I think the world doesn't make sense. That's the problem.
Say more.
So basically, there's a whole coup to try and get Lucius out of the gladiator prison.
Yeah,
thing.
his mom is like, that's my, she pulls a Harry Potter, that's my boy.
My boy. Yeah.
And she's like, I know, she's talking to she's talking to Pedro Pascal's character, General Acacius. Is that
Sure.
his name? And she's like, I know he wants to kill you because it's like very obvious he wants to kill
Yeah.
the general. But I'll give my life for Rome, but I won't give my son's life for
Which is
Rome.
a quote that because he's like, I'm tired of sacrificing another generation of Romans for wars.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I get what you're doing. But they pull this whole coup, and then the two emperors flip out, they lose it, and they're like, oh, we're going to crucify her and all this stuff. And like, before she's put to death, she's just like kind of allowed to freely roam the city.
Oh, yeah.
And like visits her son. And I'm like, what the hell is this?
Well, let's talk about her for a minute as the only woman, minus the dead wife montage. You do get a dead wife montage.
That was another thing that's another thing about the world that I didn't really understand.
The woman in the Senate? Is that what you're going to talk about?
There was a woman in the Senate?
There was a woman in the Senate. And I don't know if she was supposed to be like a servant, but she was just sort of standing there like listening. And I was like, but not like off to the side. She was embedded in some like group of men. Odd.
Yeah, sorry. You talk about what you want to talk about with her.
Oh, well, she's somehow a beacon of Rome, and she lives in a villa, but this villa has like a hydraulic door.
A door.
It's like a hidden door. She has to hit a brick, and then it silently opens a new chamber. And that's where they plan their coup. And
Yeah.
by the way, they pick the worst people to plan a coup with. It's like two guys, and one of them is clearly out of money and
One of
and
them is
stressed. That man was always sweaty.
One of them is clearly out of money, and the other guy's like, I don't know about this, and it's
And
like,
he's
wow,
he's like,
we are-
if your troops capture it, I'll follow you.
I'm gonna be honest. She is like the South Korean president. You know what I mean? Like he's like, I got this great idea, and then it just falls flat on her face. Like it is
Yeah.
so bad.
Well, and her whole thing is, I'm not really sure what her motivation is before her son shows up.
Her motivation
she
is to just like
seems-
bring equality to Rome again.
But she doesn't, like, we don't really see anything outside of her existence within, like, her husband's life or her son's life. There's nothing to her, there's no driving force in her that, like, pushes for that. Like, you have no character development of, like, why
Mhm.
that's important to her or if it even is. She's just sort of a nebulous character that is aligned only with her father, husband, and son's goals.
Yeah, pretty much.
Which,
Well,
boring.
and the other thing, this is the other thing. Well, I was confused. Did her servant rat her out?
Yes.
Okay, because then they put her servant to death, and I'm like, what an idiot. What an idiot slave girl.
Was that her servant? Those just look like women. I couldn't tell if it was the same woman.
They were definitely their slaves.
Yeah.
100%.
Well, yeah, no, I know. I was like, this stupid.
This is the thing that makes me really mad about the world of Gladiator is when I have the HBO series Rome to compare any historical Roman thing to,
Well,
you have a lot to live up
and
to.
let's take a moment to talk about historical and this movie. They have a newspaper that was made with a printing press.
The newspaper. They had the sharks.
Yeah, they had sharks.
Sharks
so
in the arena.
They flooded the Colosseum to make a mini battle, and that
Which
is something that they
happens.
did.
Yep.
But they never put sharks in there. And those sharks,
would they do
talk
it?
about CGI. Those ones were bad.
How would they transport sharks?
They-
Like, you know what I mean?
The viaducts.
Yeah, they just like swim down. Like that's
just
the
like,
only
3, 2, 1, go! Woo!
little sharks. Yeah,
They land in
it's
the
like, what the
Colosseum.
The baboons.
Those things.
Dude, the shaved
jacked.
the shaved baboons. Well, have you seen a picture of a hairless chimpanzee?
No.
Oh, well, for anyone following along right now at home, I want you to go on your phone or computer or whatever device you have right now, and I want you to type in hairless chimp and then immediately go to the first image, and you're going to be like, oh my God, because now you'll understand why the baboons look this way. Isn't that...
That's some Hunger Games mutation shit.
Look at this one. Look at those guys. They are jacked. I'm sure that like a shaved. I wonder if I can type in hairless
so
baboon.
terrifying.
Yeah, look at the hairless baboon. Type in hairless baboon. It's exactly what it was. Oh well, that one's got some skin diseases, man. That's scary. That's bad. But look at that one. See, he's got that elongated face and everything.
I'm really unsettled. That's my truth. Yeah, so there's that. Now, to their credit, they did something that I always think about when I watch a historical movie, but very few tackle, and that is they made one of the characters have syphilis and have like clearly like
How
the
did
debilitating.
you find out that he had syphilis? I don't understand.
Oh, the one brother, Joseph Quinn.
yeah.
So like the main brother.
Yeah, the one who actually has his head screwed on a little bit.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
He says the disease from my brother's loins has spread to his head. Syphilis will make you go crazy over time. And it like truly like syphilis is debilitating. It like eats away at your bones, it kind of, and then it also will like destroy your brain. Like it goes after all of you.
That's interesting.
And once I found that out, I think I listened to This Podcast Will Kill You on syphilis. It was a good episode.
Mm-hmm.
and I watched The Borgias. The Borgias TV show has a character that deals with syphilis, and he ends up dying. But he kind of also goes crazy because of syphilis, and he's like a bad guy already, and then they end up killing him.
Yeah.
And no one's sad about it.
Yeah.
And then in the Florence Foster Jenkins movie, she was exposed to syphilis, and that's why her character and Hugh Grant's character, even though they're married, they aren't intimate, and they like
because they're afraid of the syphilis.
Yeah, and that's why she's got some health problems. But literally every show or every movie that I see that's like historical, and people are like getting down and dirty, I'm always like, syphilis. What if they probably have it? What?
Oh yeah. Yeah, no.
So I will say I gave them a point because that did.
And there's interesting, like, historical stuff, sort of. Like, I like how he makes his monkey a consul, because that's clearly a reference to Caligula.
Very much.
And I'm like,
so.
Oh, okay, that's fun. Like, that's a cool thing.
Yeah, when they did, I was like a couple seconds before that happened, I was like, it's gonna be the monkey.
Yeah.
And then it was, and I was like, yes.
Yeah. And, like, there's some random other stuff. Like, they're shaving the ivory off the rhino and stuff.
That and the graffiti on all of the walls.
Yeah. The graffiti
I thought that
on
was
the walls
a fun
interesting.
touch.
Yeah.
Couldn't read it. I thought maybe you might be able to.
Well, no,
Matt
but some
took
of that,
Latin, guys.
No, but did you see, you know what I really hated about some of this? When the mom is freaking out and she's like, oh my God, and she goes into, like, Marcus Aurelius' old bedroom or whatever, and then, like, goes around the walls, and she's reading the script. It's in English. And I'm like, really? Why couldn't it be in Latin or Greek?
Yeah, that's
like,
how
I
she
don't
knows
understand.
that. So this is so funny. The way that she figures out that this gladiator is her son is he starts reciting poetry.
And he also plays with some dirt.
Oh.
Yeah.
I didn't catch that part. Yeah.
Yeah.
But she comes back to her house and she's like freaking out, goes into her son's childhood bedroom, and wrapped around the ceiling is like a little mural that says the lines that he recited.
Yeah, that Virgil said.
It's so funny because she has a statue that is her dad when he was young that looks exactly like Lucius, like dead on. And I don't know, she's like, it's prominently displayed in her courtyard. She must look at it every single day. And she sees this guy and isn't immediately like, that's a spitting image of my father. Instead it's like he plays with dirt and recites a line of Virgil.
That's the frustrating part about this movie.
And she has a hydraulic door.
Yeah, the door. What the hell is
and
up with that door?
printing press. Yeah, so I feel like it's a mixed bag. Definitely a mixed bag. But I was expecting not to like it, and I didn't. I don't know that I'd go out and like seek it and watch it again, but I didn't dislike it.
I really don't think I liked it.
Okay.
Like, I would give it like a 5. Like, it was just like, eh.
I think I would only give it a 6, maybe a 7. But again, I was expecting to really not like it. So
see, and I wasn't expecting
surprised.
to really like it, but I was like, oh, I'm ready to see some cool stuff. And I think the beginning of the movie is also slow.
Oh, I kind of liked the beginning. Like the fight with Rome. I liked that.
Yeah, the fight with Rome was
After
chill.
the fight with Rome, I think it does slow down.
Right.
But the fight with Rome, like the true beginning, I thought was pretty cool.
I mean, yeah, the true beginning with the battle is cool. Oh, someone has pointed this out. Did you notice a weapon that they used in that was literally like invented like a century later during that battle?
Is it the crossbow?
It is not the crossbow.
It
might be the crossbow also, but
I don't know.
The trebuchet.
Oh, I am not a weapons expert.
No, but like they start using.
But I did clock that a newspaper was deeply out of place.
Yeah, the newspaper's out of place. They were using a trebuchet. They also using flaming bricks for some fucking reason. Like, why would you do that? Also, it's gonna snuff out in the air. Like, it's for visual spectacle. I think this is also my problem, is that Ridley Scott should stop making historical films. Mm-hmm. He did this, he did Napoleon before this. He did Gladiator, and I'm just like, the stories you're trying to tell would just be better off if it was just a fantasy story about a fictional place or something, because trying to attach it to not actual historical stuff but historical things, it just doesn't work for anyone who knows a little bit about history. Like, I'm no Rome expert, but like I know enough to where I'm like, that's not right. Like, I know that's not right.
I'm pretty sure the only Ridley Scott movie that I've seen besides this now is The Last Duel. And that is one of the movies that had me being like, everyone has syphilis in this movie. And no one's addressing it.
Yeah. Well, like, I think that Ridley Scott does really well with, like, Alien and stuff like that. I think he's decent at sci-fi and stuff like that. Even though those aren't amazing movies, I think Ridley Scott's past his prime, in my opinion. Like, I don't think he's making any more good movies, personally. He's not like Steven Spielberg, where everyone's like, oh, this might be it. But then you watch a Steven Spielberg film and you're like, that's a Spielberg film and it
that
slaps.
Was incredible. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's fair to say that we are not his audience because, I just think that there are some people who are going to, like, ride hard for this movie.
I agree.
Not us, but some people will.
No. And I don't have, like, absolute disgust for this movie either. I'm, like, quite neutral towards the whole thing.
Yeah, I felt like some of the editing was a little strange because in the script, right, they talk about how he's so full of rage, but I didn't feel like we saw his rage until after that line because it's like it's why he's picked to be a gladiator. They're like, oh, we want someone who's full of rage because, like, some people can fight and some people are smart about fighting, but the ones who do really well are the ones that are, like, really angry and have a reason.
Yeah.
But up until that point, even when he was captured, like, he was just quiet. But when he was with some guys, he would, like, kind of laugh and smile. And that's, I don't know. Afterwards, yeah, I saw some rage. But I felt like some splicing had been done, just not to give us the best kind of progression of the character.
Well, yeah. And you know what else is strange? So, like, when he meets his mom again, you know, for the first time in the film or whatever, and he's like, I don't know who that man is. I don't know who Lucius is, and blah, blah, blah. And he, like, tells her, he, like, yells at her to get out and everything. And he's like, oh, you're a piece of shit, blah, blah, blah. And then when he sees her again, he's like, hello, mother. I'm very calm this time. How are you doing?
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa, this is a big 180 for someone who, like, doesn't like their family but now does. Like, this is what I'm talking about with the themes being inconsistent. There's no emotional recovery for anyone.
No, I agree. I mean, I see places where clearly character development was happening, but it didn't happen in the right order. And that's where I'm like, I wonder if this was an editing thing where they in post move some scenes around, or because just the progression of some of those lines did not make sense with what we were seeing on screen. That said, I think that most of the performances were really good. The one that I bought the least was the mom. I felt like her accent came and went, and I was like, what is
have
happening?
I seen you in besides the other Gladiator movie? And I feel like the answer is almost nothing.
What was her name? Let's look.
I have no idea what her name is. Yeah, well, even Pedro Pascal, I feel like when he was, like, trying to be like, I'm a Roman, I was like, you are trying too hard, sir.
Yeah.
You need to stop.
I always like him, but
yeah.
I was a little like, what are we doing?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, no, I was confused by that. Well, and then the
everyone's teeth were so white. Hollywood, let actors have a period appropriate teeth. I'm so sick. Like,
you know who? Oh, yeah, I know. I want to see them brushing their teeth with horse piss. That's historically accurate.
I don't want to see that, but I think you can make it look like they do that.
I'm just saying. That's what they did. They thought it would kill bacteria, you know?
Like, kill the human spirit.
Yeah, I know. And then I want to see a laundromat where he got some drunk guys peeing in it at 1 a.m.
Well, you know what they would wipe with?
I know, the sponge.
Yeah.
Yeah, the communal sponge,
sponge.
Yeah.
Where's that in Gladiator II?
Do you know about an old Roman prank that they used to pull at the restrooms?
No.
Oh, you're not ready for this. Someone wrote about this because it was apparently a very notorious prank that children would pull on the adults.
Oh, no.
So, obviously there was, like, water flowing through the sewage system and everything. And so what they would do is they would make a paper boat or whatever, and they would light it on fire and then send it down the sewer so that it would go by the restrooms. And then when people were, like, taking a shit, the fireboat would, like, light their ass on fire.
Okay, that's actually really funny.
Yeah. Yeah. And And like, but that's what I'm saying.
wow.
Like, ancient Rome is actually really interesting, but like, no one wants to.
Yeah, no.
Like-
Where's the buddy comedy of ancient Rome?
No, I know. Yeah, like, dude, like, I want to see a guy who's like really down on his luck because he like just hasn't caught any fish and he has to live on like the apartment on the top floor, and he's like, you know, got a mattress to his name. And he's just like trying to get by, and he does stupid pranks and stuff, like make it a dark comedy. Like,
Okay.
it's like that medieval Italian play. That's there's the movie on it. What is it like?
The Decameron? Is that what you're talking about?
No, like the Little Hour. Like
yeah, that's based on the Decameron.
oh yeah, the Decameron. Yeah. Where it's like the mute boy who they like beat, you know, but it's funny. Like, it's
but
like,
he's not. Yeah.
Yeah, he's pretending. Like that's like that's what makes it funny.
Tommaso.
Yeah, but yeah, you know who I thought did a really good performance?
Who?
The crazy emperor.
Yes, I was just gonna bring him up because I have only ever seen him
yeah,
in the
same.
first season of White Lotus, and he plays a deranged teenage boy. Like, apparently he's the younger brother, but honestly, to me, in that he looks older than his sister, who's played by Sydney Sweeney. And he did it again. Another kooky, crazy little character that I was like,
Well, but they're very different.
very different,
characters,
very
too.
different.
Yeah, which
but
is
like,
interesting.
Still, you're just sort of like, wow.
He does a good
Oh.
job. Like,
yeah, he does.
Because like in White Lotus, he like finds a spiritual awakening, and in this one, he's just like, I want to crucify people. Whoa! And you're like, okay, like that's
yeah,
great.
I thought he did a good job. I thought Joseph Quinn did a good job, but I was surprised. The promo for that made me think that he was gonna have a much bigger part, and I feel like they were kind of B2C in
Who's
that
Joseph
movie.
Quinn?
He's the other brother, and he's from
Oh.
Stranger Things. He plays Eddie.
He plays Eddie.
Chrissy, wake
Up.
up! Yeah,
Wow.
I don't like this.
Chrissy, wake up. Hey, hello. Gotta wake up. Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
I did not realize that.
Well, they look very different, don't they?
Yeah, he looks very different as a ginger.
Yeah, they're both like blondie ginger with very pale face makeup,
Yeah.
and then like heavy eyelid shadow that is not flattering
No.
at all.
No. You know, they did a good job. I really thought so, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of good jobs, Hans Zimmer in the last one, because the guy who did this one just borrowed Hans Zimmer's music for good reason. And when he had to make his own, it was action movie. It clearly was the studio being like, we want action movie, and we're going to like make it sound like action movie. Like they do with all the Marvel stuff.
I
you know?
really didn't notice much of the soundtrack, with the exception of the last song, which was Hans Zimmer.
Right, but that's the issue.
But
that's what I'm saying.
Right, no, I'm agree.
Right.
I'm just saying, like, until we're talking about it now, like, music did not stick out to me.
No.
What did stick out to me was the bad CGI for those sharks.
Yeah, the CGI
I was like, you know what? I can even buy the expanded city and like all of the landscapes that they're putting together, and then like the back of the fights and all this. Like, okay, I'm able to like, yeah, that looks fine.
Yeah.
But those sharks, even the baboons, I was like, yeah, okay, sure. The sharks. What was going on with those?
They're cute little nom-noms, you know? I mean, like, I don't know, like, it's...
Yeah, they just looked really bad.
Yeah.
So one of the things that you'll find out about us is we love The Mummy, and I love the commentary on The Mummy, and the commentary on The Mummy is just the director talking about directing, and he'll point out every single CGI scarab, which the Mummy was like 99. They're all CGI. It's
all
very
CGI.
Noticeable now. And he goes through and has to tell you explicitly every single one. That's CGI scarab. That's
yeah,
a
it's
CGI
like,
scarab.
I can tell, bro.
So now that's for us. Like, I leaned over and when we saw those sharks and I said, that's a CGI scarab.
Literally. You know what I appreciated as well in this movie?
You appreciated something. What?
I actually really liked the fight choreography.
Oh, yeah. That was pretty good.
I thought the fight choreography was really good, except for the final battle. I thought that was a little silly with the breastplate You know what I'm talking about?
That one was just it was just symbolism.
I know it was symbolism, but I was like, oh, come on, because it was so good.
He had to be in the
Like,
river, and
yeah, I know.
his gladiator healer friend had been like, in my culture, the river symbolizes forgiveness and rebirth or something.
And then he's wearing his dad's armor and
yeah,
stuff. And
then
it's like,
and
okay.
he's like, in mine, it means you're already dead, and so he almost dies, but he doesn't because he gets out of the river.
Yeah.
Symbolism.
Yeah. But I liked how in the fights, it was like people weren't like getting stabbed 3 times and then getting out of it.
No, you had to really go for it.
Yeah.
And I also, sometimes those fights, I did not know what was going to happen next.
No. And
even the small ones, like between the brothers.
Yeah.
I was like, oh shit, he just lost all of his fingers. And that really shocked me. I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, that was a good one. The other thing that I really don't understand is how those Roman archers are such good shots. Holy shit.
You're specifically talking about Pedro Pascal's death, where they shoot around.
That and other times in general. Everyone is a pinpoint shot. Like, I'm like, this is insane. If Rome had archers like this, it would have been a world conquest, man. It would have been insane.
Yeah.
They put the English longbowmen to shame. Like,
yeah, I mean, they were really, it's clearly exaggerated in many places.
Right.
It was giving a little bit of Game of Thrones with that Starbucks cup, just like, you're almost there.
Yeah.
But a glaringly obvious thing is throwing everything off.
Yeah, because basically what happens in the scene that Maddie's referring to is that, like, Pedro Pascal and Lucius are, like, fighting it out. They're dueling because it's like the gods will decide this and blah, 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 And, like, Lucius refuses to kill, like, Pedro Pascal's character, the general. And so, like, the Praetorian guards basically shoot arrows into Pedro Pascal and miss Lucius completely, even though they're like maybe 2 feet apart.
And they're all in the same area of Pedro Pascal's chest. Like, no one's no one from the back is getting him in the ass. Like, his butt cheek, totally fine. It's all his chest.
For my video game lovers out there, if you remember back in the day when Total War Shogun 2 first came out, you could, like, order archers to fire at a general specifically, and he would get like 200 arrows in him with pinpoint accuracy, and it was the funniest thing ever. And that's kind of what happens to Pedro Pascal's character. It's insane. Very silly stuff. Very, very silly, honestly, in my opinion.
I want to go back to the whole, like, moralizing. What did you make of that? Because I agree. I was like, Ridley Scott's definitely making a point here, and not necessarily like what did you think the point was, but like, how effective do you think it was? How well crafted was it? Because to me it felt pretty heavy-handed.
Yeah, I thought it was very heavy-handed. I don't think it was effective at all, because I think that the problem you have with it, so like, clearly what it's saying is it's like tyranny is bad and democracy is good. Like, that's what he's trying to say. Or, like, some form of republicanism, small r, sort of a thing, And
yeah, Paul Mescal's like the everyman.
Right.
But
and
he's
it's
not.
like, and they're like, there's no hope anymore. But the thing is, Denzel Washington's character makes really good points. He's like, Marcus Aurelius believed in this and didn't do shit about it.
I also felt like we were coming at it from the wrong perspective. Like, if we're going to make that point, this should be an uprising story of, like, coming from... Like,
that's the parts that made it interesting.
Paul Mescal's character should have been swapped with Denzel Washington, like, their backstories.
I'm going to be honest. This shouldn't have been a Gladiator movie. This should have been Denzel Washington's character's movie.
Yeah.
That's what it should have been, because that was the most interesting character.
Yes.
And it's very heavy-handed, and I'm just kind of like... okay, this is ridiculous. And it's like, and this is the other thing that doesn't make sense.
And another thing.
Yeah. So clearly it's like, we're trying to make it more egalitarian in this very unegalitarian world, which is, I think, is why they said it in Rome. But then they do some weird things where, like, Pedro Pascal is like, I've seen men and women in war. And I'm like, So it's equal there? Like, I'm like, why did you need to say that if we're living in an unequal society? If you
Oh.
just said men, it would emphasize the unequalness of the society.
I thought he meant widows and like women
No.
being taken as spoils of war.
No, he said no, because it was in the speech where he's like, I've seen courage from men and women in war and battle.
Well, I mean, you did see Paul
And it's
Mescal's
like,
wife fighting.
No,
but
I know.
that they're not Roman.
Right, exactly.
And even that, I was like, a woman fighting?
No, exactly. It really doesn't make sense. It's like, yeah, there's been women warriors, but it is not the common place back in the time at all. And I'm just like, this is going against the theme that you're trying to present with the egalitarianness. It would have been more interesting if Denzel Washington's character does this whole thing and then brings women in to fight with him or something like that for a more equal society. That would have been more interesting. But they don't do that.
I think for me, where I'm landing is like, it was fine. It was better than I thought for like my metrics, but it wasn't good enough to override some of the flaws in the messaging
Right.
and the centering of the confusion of who is centered.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really where I'm like not understanding. Like, I don't know. I don't mind stories that's like, oh, we're the special people and we rule the country and blah blah blah. But you can't also in the same breath be like, and I fight for everyone and everyone should be equal, and because you're going off of a basis of exceptionalism.
Right.
But I think an older generation really likes that kind of story. They want an exceptional leader that can claim to be like everybody else. That's that like mythos that they really kind of eat up. So
it's the Donald Trump of the world sort of a thing. I mean, that's how people buy into him, is because they view him as an everyday man, but he's above everything. Like, people love that sort of a story. You're right. You know? Keep going.
You really took the wind out of my sails.
Sorry, keep going.
Let's not bring him up.
I'm just saying, ties into it.
I don't know how to keep going. That really derailed me.
Well, I'm sorry about that. No, I agree with you, though. I think people enjoy that type of story. But you know what else, though? I think that this movie's box office performance shows that type of story just isn't interesting to most people anymore. It's only interesting to the older generation.
Well, I'm sorry, too. The other part is, like, stop making sequels 20 years on.
I know, because...
Like, just write new story. Like, and it's not even the writing. It's, like, the funding. We need to fund new stories.
Right.
I don't want Beetlejuice 85.
No, like, if Ridley Scott would have just made another ancient Rome movie about Denzel Washington's character, not called it Gladiator, and called it, like, the Roman Revolt or whatever, I don't know, you know, a catchier title than that. But, like, oh my God, you know, it would have been fine.
Or just look somewhere else, too. Like, we have so much on ancient
know.
Rome. I like ancient Rome as a setting. I do. But if you've already done it, branch out, man.
I agree. You could have done a lot, and it's...
I think overall it's a it's a thumbs down from us. I mean, I'm kind of more thumbs neutral, but you're definitely thumbs down.
I mean, I'm like, it's not the worst way to spend some downtime, but if you don't have a movie pass, it's not worth paying like $20 to see.
No, but I'd rather use my movie pass for that than Mufasa.
Yeah, I know.
We haven't seen it yet, so just take that slander as what it is, which is just griping.
Apparently some people really like Mufasa. They're like,
And some people really liked all of the other live actions.
Yeah, I don't know how it keeps making... I don't know how people keep going to see these live action movies. I'm sorry, I don't get it.
I will go when they make a live action Atlantis.
Well, yeah, the live action Atlantis will be sick.
Yeah.
But they won't. Well, but there's rumors.
You're really taking my wind out today.
Am I?
Yeah.
Well, sorry about that.
That's okay.
You know?
What did you think of the accents? I thought they were all spotty at times.
I mean, I generally speaking have a problem with the way that Rome is displayed in popular culture anyways, because it's like Romans are British. You know?
Yeah.
Like, that's the gist of it. It's like, if you're Roman, you're British. And you'll speak with a British accent. And
I just thought that some people's real accent showed through quite a bit.
Well, I would agree with you there. And I think Pedro Pascal's accent's in and out, too.
I think
quite a bit.
His is in and out.
Mm-hmm.
I think Paul's is in and
a
out.
little bit. I think the mom's is in and out.
The mom's is like a hybrid.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That's bad. The Emperor's actually did a pretty good job, honestly, but
Well,
maybe that's
Joseph Quinn is British, so that helps.
no, but the other guy.
Yeah, the other guy did great. Maybe he's British too. I don't know.
I don't know, but yeah, no, I'm saying that like they really maybe it's because they're playing kooky characters or whatever.
Yeah,
like,
but those two I didn't have a problem. Denzel Washington did no accent, which I thought was funny.
yeah, which I was fine with actually. I mean,
Yeah,
like this is a bizarre Roman thing that bothers me too. Is it's like all of these patricians in their home would have spoken Greek when their servants are around. They wouldn't have spoken Latin because they don't want their servants to know what they're talking about. Like that's what's so funny about her servant turning her in. That would have never happened in real life unless she was an educated slave, and knew Greek somehow.
yeah.
Because Latin was the common folk tongue.
Well, there's
What?
we just can't hold a microscope up to this or magnifying glass.
Because I don't
up to
think
this.
because it
just-
can't
it won't
be. It
hold
can't
up.
be. Because it won't. Right.
But yeah, I mean, I think not everything will be great.
No. And this wasn't it. I really hope they don't make a sequel to this.
It did make me interested in Gladiator 1, if only to just be like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's how I feel about the Alien movies too with Ridley Scott. Like I see an Alien movie and then I'm like, "Oh, I haven't seen that other one." And then I watch it just because I'm like, the world is mildly interesting. And they're not good. They're just like there,
Mm,
I think that's the problem is he just makes mildly interesting stuff. That's it.
yeah.
And nothing stands out. It's just the way it is.
Oh, the other thing. The little boy's playing soccer.
When?
When,
Oh, there was another thing too that I have too. Keep going with your soccer
well,
bit.
just like soccer originates in like Mayan culture.
Wait, is this when they were in Egypt?
Yeah, when he like runs away, the first like flashback you get of him running away.
Yes, and then the
And he was playing goalie and he's like, I gotta go, and he dips.
well, and then the other thing that really pissed me off about that too was the pyramids look like how they do today. And I'm like, what the fuck is this?
Well, right, I guess.
They would have been nice and pretty.
Well, nicer.
Right. No, they would have had the limestone on them
Yeah.
still. Because the limestone didn't go away until I think Napoleon's era or something like that.
Yeah. Well,
I mean,
I didn't actually even catch any of the pyramids. I was so
Right.
focused on the soccer.
Yeah, I'm like, what the hell is this?
Maybe a historian will be like, actually, they were playing this ancient Roman game. But to a lay person, it looked like soccer. And I know enough to know that soccer would not have been around.
Would have been a Mayan thing, yeah. Yeah, no, not at all. It wouldn't have been, yeah. It's just silly. It's like, what are we doing, guys?
It's like we're so close, and then we miss by so much.
Right, because like the Gladiator setting should be really interesting, but instead they make it this bizarre Game of Thrones shit.
I do like that song.
It's a good song. Hans Zimmer knows what he's doing sometimes.
As per usual.
Yeah.
I
So,
don't really know that I have anything else to say.
I don't think there's much to say about
This
this
could be a
movie.
shorty little episode because, I mean, it was a movie.
It was a movie, and because I'm looking through our list, and there's nothing else that we haven't talked about. We'll get back to you whenever we see another movie. Don't know when that'll be, but I haven't heard any good things about almost any movie out right now. So I've heard Moana 2 is a train wreck. I'm not excited about Mufasa.
Yeah, dude.
We'll see.
I'd rather do Moana 2 than Mufasa.
I know.
Personally.
No, I definitely would do Moana 2 over Mufasa. So, everyone should just see Wicked again if you're gonna see something.
Oh, fully. Yes. Yes.
For what's out right now, I would do that. Good film. Because everything else, I feel like you're gonna be wasting your money. So, if you don't have a movie pass.
On that cheery note.
Yeah.
Cut.
Nice.